Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Good. Before we get started, can we go over to group rules?
What's said in the group stays in the group. One person talks at a time.
Be respectful.
Stay on task.
All right, thanks. Last week, we worked on starting a conversation. That was your homework. Did anybody have any luck doing their homework? Brandon?
Mine was starting a conversation, and there was a new kid at school, and I started a conversation with him, and it turned out well.
Went well. You think you followed the steps?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I started a conversation with my daughter's teacher for more time.
And how'd that go?
It went excellent.
And you think you followed the steps also?
Yes.
Good. Okay. This week, we're going to do making a complaint constructively.
So when we look at the skill making a complaint constructively, let's talk a little bit about what's a complaint. What's a complaint, Jelena?
It is stating an issue.
An issue, absolutely. How would you define a complaint, Mike?
Like someone when they're not getting their own way, sometimes, and they want to change something, they complain about.
You want to change something that maybe you don't think's
that
fair,
you don't like, yeah,
wrong,
or it's
okay.
fair, yeah.
Okay, Brandon?
Telling someone in a higher power of something that you don't like that they might be able to change.
Oh, very good, very good. The other thing is that word, we add that word constructively in there because how do you think when you express a complaint, do you want to do it in a positive way or a negative way?
Positive.
Positive way. Have you ever heard one of your peers make a complaint and it just sounded like whining or extremely negative? And what were the chances they were going to get anything done about it?
Like 0%.
Not hardly, right? The other thing is, have you ever heard one of your peers say a complaint and there's 5 or 6 or 10 complaints in a row, and they just don't narrow it down, right? So when we look at that word constructively, do you think it's saying we want to do it in a positive way or a negative way?
Positive.
Positive way, absolutely.
Good. Has there ever been a time when you wanted to make a complaint, wish you had, but didn't make it?
All the time. When I'm at work, I have to like do my job, and then they do their job. And when they're done with their job, they always go on like a little 10-minute break instead of coming over and helping me. But when I'm done with my job, I'm not allowed to sit down at all. I have to go over there and help them, and that's not fair. And I get frustrated. I always think about saying something, but I never did.
Wish you did, but never said anything.
Never said anything.
Okay. Sasha?
When I used to work, I had this manager that didn't do nothing for us. All he did was stand there and fold his arms, and I had to hustle and do everything. And our coworkers didn't know what they were doing, so I was basically the only one that was doing anything, and I didn't complain about it at all.
But wish you had complained about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to look at the steps and kind of define the steps of the skills. So Brandon, if you would what's step number 1?
Decide what your complaint is,
Why do you think that's important?
so you know what you're going up to complain about.
Narrowing it down, you know specifically what you're going to complain about, right?
Right.
Sasha, what's step number 2? You got your card, hon? It's right there. There you go. What's step number 2?
Decide whom to complain to.
Now, why? That's a very important thing. Why do you think that's important?
Because you can't just complain to the person that you want them to stop. You gotta complain to somebody that's in more higher power so they can make the other person stop.
Somebody that can do something about it, right? Okay. Deshauna, how about step number 3?
Tell that person your complaint.
Now, when you do that, what do you think? We gave some words to describe it. We want to do it in a what way?
Positive way.
Positive way,
Calm
calm
voice.
way.
Yes.
Very good. So that's a very important step also, right?
Yes.
Jelena, step 4.
Tell that person what you would like done about the problem.
Okay, so now, why do you think it's important to come with a solution?
So you won't be all around the world. So you just know exactly what you want.
Yeah, and it's telling the person what you want, but it also shows that you put some thought into it, didn't you?
Yeah.
You came up with a solution, and that's so important, right? And what's step 5, Mike?
Ask he or she ask how he or she feels about what you said.
So the last thing in defining the skill is You decide what your complaint is. You do a really good job, you narrow it down. You decide whom to complain to. You're complaining to somebody that can do something about it. You actually tell it in a very nice, polite, calm way, and you have a really fair solution. Is there a chance that even after you do all of that you still don't get what you're looking for?
Yes.
Yeah, so sometimes life is still unfair. The important part to us is you've gone through the steps, you've expressed your complaint, and sometimes you have to deal with somebody still not seeing your point of view, okay?
Dr. Oliver and I are going to role play the skill. The scenario is I handed in an assignment a day late, fully complete. It was a day late, and I got a 0 on the paper. My complaint's going to be I got a 0, and I'm going to ask to get some credit. Before we do that, though, we're going to assign the steps. And what we want you to do is to pay attention to my bubble talk. And when I say in my bubble talk, it doesn't match up in the action in the role play. Mike, would you read number 1, please?
Decide what your complaint is.
Decide who to complain to.
Tell that person your complaint.
Tell that person what you would like done about the problem.
Ask how he or she feels about what you have said.
Very good. So I'm going to walk through my bubble talk first. Jelena, you're our director, so after I do that, when you're ready, then we'll go into the action. Decide what your complaint is. My complaint is I handed in a paper, it was a day late, but I got a 0 on it. Decide whom to complain to. I complained to the counselor, I complained to the principal, I think I'm going to complain to the teacher. They gave me the 0. Tell that person your complaint. I'm going to tell them I got my paper back, it was complete, and I got a 0 on it. Tell that person what you like done about the problem. I know it's handed in a day late, but I'd like to get at least some credit for it, full knowing I can't get full credit for it. Ask her he or she feels about what you said, and when I'm done, tell them what I want done. I'm going to ask them, how do you feel about that? Okay?
Jelena, do you have a title for this scenario?
0 on the paper.
0 on the paper. Okay, whenever you're ready.
0 on paper. Action.
Dr. Oliver, you got a minute?
Mark, come on in. Good to see you.
You know, I got my paper back. There was a 0 on it. I know it was a day late, but it was complete. I was wondering if is it possible I could get some points for it? I know it wasn't completely done. How do you feel about that?
Well, Mark, this isn't the first time you've been late. And my rule is if you hand it in late, you get a 0. So I'm going to stick with the 0, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to do some extra work and maybe bring up your grade that way.
So it'll bring the 0 up. Okay.
That's correct.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. So we want to get feedback on the steps. Mike, you have number 1. Would you read it, please?
Decide what your complaint is.
How do I do with that?
Good. Your complaint, you got a 0, and you got to change where you can do some extra work to get your grade up.
Was it clear? What was it clear? What my complaint was?
It was that you had a 0 on your
Okay.
paper.
Okay, good. Number 2, Joanne.
Decide who to complain to. You had a couple options of who you were going to complain to, but then you
Okay.
complained to the person who could actually change it was your teacher.
Very good. Jean?
Tell that person your complaint. You told your complaint, spoken clearly, you were calm, and you did it very positive.
Very good. Sasha?
Tell that person what you would like done about the problem. You told him that you would want like some extra credit to help you bring your 0 up.
Okay, good. Brandon?
Ask how he or she feels about what you've said. You asked him how he felt about getting points for your paper, and he was pretty content on the roles, but he did give you a chance to get extra credit because he felt that you were worrying about your grade.
Okay, good. So that's modeling the skill. That gives you an example of how we did the bubble talk and then what the action should look like. So we want to come up with your scenarios for your role plays, and we want you to try to come up with a scenario that is right now. So you have something to complain about right now. Brandon,
The money that I'm making at my job,
who are you going to complain to?
my boss,
When are you going to do it?
Monday.
Very good. Sasha?
When I walk into the store, the employees were cussing.
Okay. Who would you complain to about that?
Customer service,
When would you do that?
probably that day.
You probably have to do it right then. Good. Okay. Dejana?
I saw someone stealing boxes.
At work? Where you work at?
Yes.
Who
work.
would you complain to about
My
that?
boss
When would you do that?
on Monday.
Okay. Joanna?
They gave me the wrong sandwich at Five Guys, so I will complain to the supervisor
So you complain to the supervisor. When would you do that?
right away.
You didn't want to have to do that right away. Okay. Michael?
I've been working too many hours at work.
Okay. So who would you complain to?
The
Your
boss
boss. All right. When would you do that?
on Monday.
When you go? Is that the next time you work?
hmm
Okay. Very good. Does somebody? Dejan, would you role play this first? Okay. Want to come up?
All right, Dejana. First thing we want to do, though, is assign the steps so you can hear what she says in her bubble talk, okay? And does she do in her bubble talk, or in her scenario, actually what she said in her bubble talk, okay? So if we could, Brandon, you're going to be step one, okay, which is what, Blake?
Decide what your complaint is.
Okay. Sasha, step two.
Decide whom to complain to.
Very good. Jelena, step three.
Tell that person your complaint.
Okay, Mike, you're step 4 and 5.
Tell that person what you would like done about the problem and ask how he or she feels about what you said.
Okay. All right, Dejana, let's set up your scenario. Tell me your scenario again.
My scenario is I was at work and I seen someone stealing boxes, and I wanted to make a complaint to my boss about it.
Because why?
That person was lying about them stealing.
Okay, all right, very good. So go ahead and do your bubble talk and go through the steps. Read the steps out loud for me.
Decide what your complaint is. My complaint is I seen someone stealing boxes and they lied about it. Decide who to complain to. I'm going to complain to my boss. Tell that person your complaint. I'm going to tell that person my complaint in a calm and mannered way. Tell that person what you would like done about the problem. I'm just going to tell my boss that I like him to speak to that person about them stealing and lying about it,
Okay,
and ask how he/she feels about what I've said. I'm going to ask my boss how did he feel about the
Okay.
whole scenario.
just real quickly, go back to step number 3, which is what?
Tell that person your complaint.
Let me hear what your complaint's going to sound like. Go ahead and tell me what you're going to say.
I'm going to say, Mr. Titus, can you please have a word with the person that I've seen stealing?
That's good. Keep going.
And I'm going to say, I don't think that it's fair that that person is stealing and still is working here.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Who in group could play your boss? Brandon?
Brandon.
Okay. So Brandon, you're going to be Mr. Titus, the boss. You understand the scenario?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So you're going to have to get ready to give her some response when she tells you that. Okay.
Yep.
So everybody's ready?
Yes.
Our director ready?
Action.
Hi, Mr. Titus. I wanted to come to you because I seen another worker in the back stealing boxes, and I confronted them, but they lied about it, and they won't come to you to confirm it or anything.
Well, I really appreciate you coming up to me and being honest. Good thing about this is that we do have surveillance cameras in there, so I'll check it over, see if it's true, and I'll jump right on them. If I feel so, then I'll fire them, but I really appreciate you coming up and telling me.
And I appreciate you having taken out and talking to me about the whole scenario.
Very good. That was really good. We're gonna get the feedback. Brandon, we're gonna ask you first, co-actor. How did she do generally in her role play?
She was very straight up. She got to the point very quickly, and I understood everything she said. Her complaint was that a worker was stealing boxes out of the back room, and she was disappointed about that.
Very good. So you also had step one. Would you read step one, please?
Decide what her complaint is.
How did she do with that?
Very good. She came up front. It was very understandable exactly what her complaint was, and her complaint was that the person was stealing out of the back room.
And she was clear. It was real clear what she was saying in terms of what the complaint was. There's no confusion about that.
Absolutely.
Very good. Number 2, Sasha, do you have number 2?
Decide whom to complain to.
Okay.
She did very well with that. She went straight to her boss and told him what happened, and she wanted something done about it.
And seems like it was the correct person to complain to.
Yes, it was.
Good. Jelena?
Tell that person your complaint. I feel like she did a good job with that because she didn't like come at him and like she didn't say it mean. She just, told him like, this is what's happening and would you do something about it, or,
And she was very respectful
yeah.
when she approached him. Very good. Mike?
Tell that person what you would like done about the problem. She wanted to tell him that the girl was stealing from the store, and she wanted her in trouble because she was stealing.
And she didn't think it was fair either.
And it's not fair.
And she said that in her role play. How about number 5?
Ask how he or she feels about what you said.
Did you do that?
Yes. And,
Did she do that? I'm not sure.
She didn't ask, but I mean, he let her know how he feels.
He
about
did, and then at the end of it, after he said that, she thanked him. She thanked him, so it was, he kind of gave his feedback to her as part of the role play. Okay. You did a great job. I mean, you did your bubble talk very good. Even added a little bit more in the role play, I think, because you did practice it well in your bubble talk.
So, when are you going to be able to practice this skill? You said you go to work again when?
Monday.
Monday, and you're going to complain to your boss on Monday.
Right.
That's your homework. Come back to group next week and tell us how it went.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I know all of you did your Hasselog for homework, and on that Hasselog you had scenarios that we're going to use this week to do your role play. So Brandon, what was your situation?
My mom told me that she'd pay me to paint the big barn, and I ended up painting all of it, but I missed one section, so she didn't pay me, so I dumped the paint that she had.
And if I remember right, it was a 10-gallon pail of paint?
Yes.
How much did that cost?
Around $100.
So your mom's out $100. And what, did she get angry?
Yeah.
Right. All right, so when we practice this today, what's going to be good is right at that point where you're going to dump the paint, that's when we're going to go through your reminders and your if-then thinking and see if we can come up with some different consequences. Because you had a short-term consequence in that scenario, which was?
That I didn't get paid.
You didn't get paid, your mom got really angry, right? The long-term consequence was?
I had to get another job to pay her back.
And that took how long?
About 2 weeks.
Yeah, so that was a pretty natural long-term consequence, okay? Did you feel bad at all about making your mom mad?
After I did, I did.
So that's an example of an internal consequence, right?
Right.
Okay, excellent. And the external consequence would be that you had to do restitution.
Yes.
Okay, so we got all 4 of those concepts in there. Sasha, what was your situation?
I got angry about something I couldn't go do that day, and I threw my stuff and I broke my property, kind of.
You were angry because you couldn't go get your picture taken and you really wanted to do it that day. Is what? Okay. And you broke stuff. Whose stuff did you break?
My stuff.
Your stuff. So the short-term consequence was
I was angry.
you were angry. The long-term consequence was
My stuff's broken.
your stuff's broken, and how long did it take you to replace it?
I still haven't replaced it.
You haven't replaced it all just yet, right? Did you feel bad after you got done? When you at the end, were you feeling bad that you've broken all your stuff? That's an example of an internal consequence, right? And the external consequence and the longer-term consequence is that you don't have your stuff, and it's going to take you a long time to replace it. Okay, that's excellent. Deshauna, what was your situation?
I was late to class